Good afternoon and welcome back into another edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead Show. The Dear Goon is here and will be joining us momentarily. I'm Ironhead, this is Alan Weiser, and he is here to talk about some opportunities. A big opportunity up at the Pagola Ice Rink. And first of all, Alan, thanks for stopping by. Always good to see you, my man.
Great seeing you too, Jeff, and also Goon, for this opportunity. As you said, my name is Alan Weiser. I'm the facilities supervisor at Pagola with special emphasis on back-of-house operations, which includes Zamboni driving. And I'm here to say that we do have some of those opportunities available for those who may be interested.
Who wouldn't be interested? What are the requirements? Because honestly, we have half-kiddingly talked about this for decades on our morning show when Kevin Nelson was up here. We both think Zamboni driver is about the coolest thing you could put on your resume. But what is required in order to be able to be a Zamboni driver?
I think the biggest thing is, number one, enthusiasm, and number two, just being able to take direction and the ability to learn. I mean, everything is in-house.
I had the enthusiasm. Everything else, forget about it.
But, you know, we do have 2 full-time ice resurfacers presently at Pagola. And we have a comprehensive training program that we basically implement hands-on. So really anyone is eligible, from student to non-student. Non-student can be you. It can be Goon. I could just see Goon on the Zam every Monday. You know,
I could see that.
But there are some requirements that you make you ineligible. For instance, you can't be a retiree at Penn State. Okay, that's one thing.
Huh.
But really, that is really the only limitation.
What all is involved in the in all sincerity of the training? I mean, it looks like it's a blast, but it's got to be a bit of a challenge to learn to operate that thing efficiently and effectively.
Yeah, it is. It is a process. We have 2 different kinds of Zambonis. One is electric powered. The other one is propane powered.
Is that right?
The principle is basically the same. The reason why we do have the propane, obviously, with going from 1 sheet at Greenberg, going to 2 sheets at Pagola, it requires a lot of additional ice cuts with the 2 sheets.
Yep.
So the advantage of having a propane Zamboni ice resurfacer is the ability to switch right off. Gotcha. Whereas with the electric Zam, you know, you can get a number limited of cuts with that Zamboni until the battery's kind of drained, then you have to recharge it, which takes a little time.
Gotcha. Did not know that. That's
interesting
in and of itself.
Yeah, you really don't know much about us unless something really dire happens on the ice. So, you know, we're kind of behind the scenes there, and that's what these candidates would be exposed to as well, and learn not only how to drive a Zamboni, but how to put the ice in, how to take the ice out, basically how both glass systems work. You know, if we have a piece of broken glass, obviously we're under pressure to go out there and get her done like we always do. My motto is always rally, rip, and roar. It seems to work. Everyone's bought into it, and we actually live it. So,
ideally, how many Zamboni drivers would you have at Pagola if you had ideal, so that if somebody's out for sickness or vacation or whatever, you have everything covered throughout the course of the week?
Yeah, it's a good question, Jeff. Obviously, last year we were very limited with COVID. We had a very limited number of fleet staff. We try to also have a nice mix with students and non-students, because it's a nice educational experience for full-time Penn State students. But on the backside, they go on breaks, and that kind of leaves our coverage a little limited. So with that being said, I like to have at least 10 to 12 in addition to our 2 full-time.
Yep.
And also, it's just not the Zamboni position. It's all positions are available at Pagola on a part-time basis. So if, Zamboni isn't your thing and you're like, no way I can get on that thing and do that. I mean, there's opportunities for community, team leaders, Pagola team leaders, team members in general to fulfill other roles at Pagola as well.
How are things going here at Pagola as we keep trying to make the turn into quote-unquote normalcy?
I think it's been a real good transition. Actually, our role has not really changed in COVID. We have to have ice.
Yeah.
Expectations are high to provide the best possible ice with the time that we have to do it. My personal goal is to have the best and finest sheets for both Gads and Campy for their two teams for every game day. So we've been pretty steady with that. COVID really didn't affect us in that much of an aspect. Speaking of that, I know that Gads is working real hard with his team. He's excellent to work with at Pagula.
Yeah.
And same with Campy. He's doing a really, really good job with his support staff too. Started off a little rough, but I see him work every day. And I'll tell you what, with that kind of leadership on both sides, they're going to be something special.
Yep. I think we are wholeheartedly in agreement on that. They got a couple of terrific leaders there and a couple of programs that have had some good days, but I think the best days are just around the corner here. Totally anything else, Alan, that you wanted to get out there that I didn't ask you about here?
No, I think that covers it. I know not only from a Pagula standpoint, but all in athletics, they're looking for part-time support.
Yeah.
My contact email is alw22@psu.u. If you have any further questions, you can basically just email me, and I can pretty much put you in the direction of who you need to contact and which area you would like to work at.
Are you who they should be contacting about the Zamboni?
Yeah, I can basically guide them through the whole process.
Okay.
There is a whole process of applying for the job. So, yes, I think we should start out there with alw22@psu.edu. That way I can kind of direct them the right direction.
Fantastic. As always, good to see you, my man. Let's get the Penguins up and running here.
Yeah, man.
Need a cup.
We're undefeated so far in the preseason. Yeah, I know.
I hear you. Yeah, we're getting business down here. Like, we need that to start the season. Again, Alan Weiser kind enough to join us with Pagula Ice Arena. The Dear Goon will join us when we come back, and we'll get ready for the Nittany Lions and the Hawkeyes coming up Saturday afternoon at Kinnick Stadium. We're back with the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show after this.
Lion Country Kia is offering exceptional deals on your new Kia during Kia's Command the Season event.
We have a nice selection on the 2021 Kia Sportage with various options and prices as low as $26,800, saving you $3,000. Or if you demand big power and towing capacity, slip into one of the 2021 Kia Sorrentos available on our lot, starting at $32,680.
Discover why Kia drivers throughout the area come to Lion Country Kia or visit online at lioncountrykia.com.
Quaker Steak and Lube is throwing open the garage doors and setting up the umbrellas. It's patio season. Come enjoy great food, drinks, and fun in the sun. There's always something happening at Quaker Steak and Lube, but we're really amping up our event calendars for our favorite time of year. Visit thelube.com to find out what's happening at your local lube this season. Lunch, happy hour, dinner, or late night, indoors or outside, at Quaker Steak and Lube, you'll always find big flavors, friendly faces, and lots of fun.
Hi, Johnny Broom here. If you're in the market for a new Hyundai or a pre-owned car, truck, van, or SUV, nobody beats a Blaze Alexander deal. But don't take my word for it.
Hey, Goon says tell him Johnny sent you.
Hey, tell him Johnny sent ya.
Tell him Johnny sent you.
Wait, tell him Juan or tell him Johnny sent you?
Tell him Johnny sent you.
Here at Bill Pickles Tap Room, we say,
tell him Johnny sent you.
And remember,
And we welcome you back into the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show as we get ready for Penn State, Iowa on Saturday. And it is interesting, Goon, and fun. And I think it's good. I was talking with a friend of mine yesterday about the way this season is playing out, right? And you go back to the beginning of the season, it's like, man, this Wisconsin game, a huge game. What a way to start the season. Then you have Auburn and that opportunity with the SEC. And I still think that Auburn team is better than what I thought, at least going into the start of the season. And we'll see how it all plays out. There's going to be plenty of time.
This week, so we'll see.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see. I mean, I'm certainly not expecting Auburn to win that game, but I'm really curious to see, especially at the line of scrimmage, how they match up, because I think that gives you a little bit better indication of, okay, just how wide is that gap right now, which I perceive to be pretty wide between Penn State and, again, the elite that Penn State is striving to join.
You can see Georgia having a little bit of a letdown possibly after that big win against Arkansas. Now they get, Auburn's a ho-hum type of team, but they're coming off a hell of a win down in Baton Rouge, so they got a little mojo going. And Georgia's not ready to go. I mean, they may get jumped a little bit,
Yeah, and to me, it largely comes down to Nix and can he, in the big moment, come up big, which he obviously, as was well documented going into and throughout the Penn State game, he has not done to this point in his career. But I think, again, I'm fully expecting Georgia to win. I do think this will be, which not going out on a limb much here, but I do think this will be a more competitive game than an Arkansas game was with Georgia.
I thought that was going to be a better game than it was.
Well, and I think Auburn's defense is a little more legit. I'm curious. Again, we'll see how it all plays out. This is one of those games that I just think, as a Penn State fan, you want to see just as some sort of a measuring stick. And again, as we keep talking about each week, a season unto itself. That game in and of itself isn't going to tell you everything you want to know, but that line play in particular, I want to see how Auburn holds up over 4 quarters against Georgia, and then reassess my stance right now on Penn State's line play and kind of what it's capable of down the road. But Penn State has its own concerns this week, and a very good Iowa team. And again, both these teams have been very good at taking care of the football and creating turnovers. I think Iowa's numbers are a little skewed with that Maryland game. And again, all credit to Iowa because you still have to make the play. But it was not in at least 3, and I feel pretty comfortable saying 4 of those turnovers were just all on Maryland and the quarterback. I mean, it wasn't like there was tremendous pressure. I mean, it wasn't even that there was something that Iowa was doing that was causing it. It was just like I don't know exactly what was happening, just completely on different pages, but it just looked like he was literally playing catch with the Iowa defenders.
Well, Maryland lost that receiver. Their best player goes down on that kick return or whatever. It was just like they packed their tents and just, I'm going home. We're done. We're not going to play anymore, which was just insane, crazy, because they were still could have been in it at that point, but then that quarterback.
Well, and it just
you want one? You want one?
Yeah,
you want one?
And it just kind of collapsed on itself. Yep. And again, it happens. We've seen that. We've seen it with good teams, right? Where you just have that day, as we've talked about it. Preparation might have been great. Everything else might have been great. And, man, you just have one of those days like most, if not all of us have at work, where it's like, I don't understand. I got a good night's sleep. I got everything ready to go. I'm ready for a great day. And, crap, I can't do anything right. Every time I turn around, there's a mistake. There's a typo, significant one. It just – we have those days.
Walk outside with a flat tire.
Yeah, and then you try to.
I got a goon story for you, Iron.
Go ahead.
Notre Dame, I believe it was like 6 or 7 when we were out there. When Fat Charlie was the coach and Brady Quinn was the quarterback and Schmarja was the receiver.
Yep.
I remember sitting standing with Joe on the sideline, and when it's an away game, you only have 65 guys there, so the sideline's not even remotely crowded. So he and I were just standing there talking. And I said, "You seen this before?" He goes, "You got every once in a while, you're gonna have one of these days." And it's like not a thing went right. Opening drive of the second half, you needed a big turnover, and our safety drops just a ball right into his chest, and then Brady Quinn throws he fumbles the ball, and they pick it up, and it was just a cluster. Yeah, and he's just like, it's just Joe looked at me and he was like, you have these games every once in a while. And the funny part is the next year when they played here, they did nothing right. They couldn't do a thing right. So it is what it is. And then another Joe thing was always that he's like, if you're going to run the table, you're going to have a game that you shouldn't win that you win. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're going to have that, like everything you did should say you lost, but you win it, and you have to find a way to do that. And, somebody made mention to me today of a friend of mine and said, you got to look at Iowa, their schedule. And I'm going through it, and I'm like, how in the hell did they get this schedule? I mean, it's like you may as well just
that's
if they
where
said, if the Big Ten went to Iowa and said, give us your perfect scenario of a season right now, and this would be it.
Yep.
It's insane. They have nobody after us.
And really, at the end of the day, nobody before Penn State.
You're right.
I mean, Iowa State at the time, again, and
yeah,
how much of Iowa State's problems since then were because of the loss to Iowa. I mean, so I don't know. But, right, I think
Colorado State,
I meant to look
Illinois.
this up. Yeah, but I think right now, if you look at the current AP rankings, but I think Penn State is Iowa's only ranked opponent.
Coming up, yeah.
No. Only ranked opponent on the schedule.
That's okay. Iowa State's not ranked anymore.
Yeah, only team that is in the top. I think Penn State is the only team in the top 25 this week that is on Iowa's schedule.
In that,
which,
to
your point, right? Because there are, what are we at? 5.
We're 6. Week 6.
5 Big Ten teams that are ranked. Okay, including Iowa and Penn State. So that means there are 3 other ranked teams. Iowa faces 0 of those 3 other ranked teams, which is, again, fairly astounding. Whereas Penn State, by the way, just to contrast, again, has played Auburn. Obviously, Wisconsin was ranked at the time, but not in the current top 25. So Auburn right now, the only ranked opponent going into this game. But at the moment, you still have Ohio State, Michigan, and Michigan State as ranked opponents remaining for Penn State. And that's where I was going earlier, is it just feels like this schedule for Penn State, which I think as a fan, and truthfully, I think as a player, right, you ought to relish. Like, this is the opportunities you want. I have some Penn State wrestling fans that are complaining about the home schedule, and there's not a lot of marquee matchups. I mean, I'm not even saying you're wrong to not be thrilled about it. But as a fan, right, you want to see the Auburns and the Michigans and the Ohio State and the Iowa games. Like that's what gets you jacked up. If you're an Iowa fan, I mean, it is kind of all in on this game.
Yeah.
And then it's trying to, all right, let's try to keep the intensity, even though there's not a game there that other outside folks are going to jack up as a big deal.
We give Cincinnati crap. The national media is giving them crap because of the schedule. But in the end, they're going to play one ranked team, which was Notre Dame, right? And they beat them. And that would be Iowa. They would have the same thing if they beat Penn State. They would when they play, but not now. You know what I mean?
Well, so that's the thing.
Really
we got to see. Yeah,
it's like we give they're giving Iowa a pass. They have one ranked game. I mean, Cincinnati had one, but they're saying Cincinnati's not going to make it because they play such a bad schedule. I mean, how is Iowa's schedule any better?
Yeah, and again, we'll see how this season plays out. There's obviously chances that some other teams could sneak in there, and a team like Michigan State that's ranked right now, that's on Penn State's schedule, may not end up being ranked. You got to see how.
I still think Indiana might come back. Out. I really do.
Yeah,
that team was pretty good to me.
Yeah,
that defense was legit. And I know everybody's calling me crazy for saying it, but I think that defense is better than Iowa's.
So here are going into the Iowa game.
Yep.
I think there's kind of a consensus, 3 things that everybody that's trying to analyze this game, and I've been reading some of the national previews and stuff, just trying to get a sense, and everybody seems to be of the everybody that I'm reading and seeing anyway of the same mindset. One is that Kinnick Stadium does provide a terrific home field advantage. There's nobody with any sense that would argue that anywhere, but it's not a noon game, which I think that would have played to Penn State's favor. I realize the Penn State fans' concern is that those early road kickoffs historically have led to some problems. Yes, and not a night game, so you're in that in between where fans are going to have some time to get juiced up.
Personally,
but it also gives the team a chance, the visiting team, Penn State, a chance to kind of get its bearings under it and not jump right in it with that noon kickoff. So 3:00 Iowa time will be the kickoff on Saturday, and I do think that's of all of the possible times, I think that's probably the best case scenario overall for Penn State. Although I think the noon would have been just fine. I think the less time you give the fans to rev up, And not that they still wouldn't be making noise in a noon kickoff. I just think it'll be noisier.
I don't think it matters to those kids
at 4:00. So listen, I think I do think there's a home field advantage there for Iowa, but I think this game is going to boil down, as many big games do. But the two things that I think are, and then I'll give you what I think is the third key. But the turnover battle, which, again, both teams have been very good at, and Iowa has made Kirk Ferentz has made a career of that, right? Like that they win the turnover battle as often as not, more often than not, in these big matchups that are close. And, it's one of those situations where, to your point, Goon, yes, you have to win a game that you're maybe not supposed to along the way. You've also got to win the games that you are supposed to. And this feels like a game going in, right? What I think Iowa fans are somewhat expecting is that, yep, we're going to lose the statistical battle. Penn State will outgain us. Penn State may win time of possession. Penn State may do this. Penn State may do that. But we'll win the game because we're going to win the turnover battle and we'll find a way, right? And overall, Iowa has done that. Now, Iowa has not done that against James Franklin and Penn State. And I do think there's a similarity here in Iowa-Penn State, with Penn State assuming the role of Ohio State in the Penn State-Ohio State series, right? Because it's not as though, Penn State fans seem to think James Franklin owns Iowa. And in terms of win-loss record, right, I think it's 4-1. Yes, but every one of those games, a play. I mean, if Jawan Johnson, it doesn't make the catch and they don't make that throw. I mean, every one of those games, right, was a one-score game.
Yes, it was.
So much like the Ohio State games, where we're talking about a point in a couple of those things. But it's not like Penn State is just yes, they've had Iowa's number in terms of the final outcome, the final result. But it's not as though Penn State has just gone in and controlled and dominated these games. They've all been very, very competitive, very hard-fought, close games. And you're expecting that again. And again, that's why the turnovers are so critical. The other thing is special teams, which, again, both of these teams, Iowa historically is just terrific at special teams. This Penn State squad is making a living on its special teams. And, if this is a field position game and the turnover battle is even or better for Penn State, right, you feel like Jordan Stout can be the difference maker there. Let Iowa try to go 90 yards consistently while Penn State, you're hoping can get some, 70 or 60-yard fields over the course of the day and get some points up that way. And the other thing is with the return yardage, again, both teams looking for those hidden yards. It is getting more and more difficult to get those hidden return yardage. Kickoffs especially. I mean, it's almost with big-time college football now that you're just not given many, if any, opportunities in these games. But even with the punt return, these punters are getting really good at just with the high hang time, and the fair catch is
I like how the teams
more
are jacking it
not.
and landing it at the 1 yard line and making them return, but the coverage is there. So
So the other thing that I think this game is going to come down to is explosive plays, right? And that is where it feels like, to me, I think I would give Iowa a slight advantage going in on what we have to base it on at this point, a slight advantage in terms of turnovers. I would give Penn State a very slight advantage in terms of special teams going in. But I think Penn State has the advantage in explosive plays, and I think even more of an advantage in terms of the potential for explosive plays. And, both of these teams want to make the other team put together those 12, 14, 15 play drives. Right.
Earn it.
But I think Penn State,
the last thing they want is us to have a quick touchdown.
Right.
They want
but
us
with
to earn
Jahan
every yard.
Dotson and Parker Washington and Sean Clifford, right, that potential is certainly there for Penn State, I think, to a substantially greater degree. And it's not to say that Iowa can't hit it and with me analyzing this, I'm sure Iowa's first play will be an 80-yard touchdown pass, and I'll get blown up. But going in, it sure feels like Penn State is the team that is better equipped and has done a better job to this point. I mean, the statistics will tell you that Penn State has had more explosive plays, more 20-yard plus plays with the offense. And both of these teams kind of rely on some of those because neither of these teams going into this game are doing a great job in terms of third down conversion. They're among the worst in the Big Ten, both Penn State and Iowa, going into the game on Saturday. So that obviously is also a big focus for both of these squads, is trying to win that battle. And again, part of those third down conversions is, yes, you want to get scoring drives together, but it is so much about the field position. You can get a couple of first downs, and then you're punting and trying to get Iowa inside the 10, whereas you go 3 and out, now you're trying to get Iowa, hopefully, with a great punt by Stout in the 20 to 30-yard range. And same thing defensively. If you can get the 3 and out and not give up the couple of first downs, right now you give your offense a shorter field to work with. And I think those are big deals going into this game.
It's a huge game.
First downs.
You're saying exactly how a big game is played. The special teams, who can run the ball, who can stop the run, no turnovers, and special teams. I mean, that's the key right there. So we're, as the opponent, as the visitor, I have always felt like it's always good to not let the crowd get all wound up to start. So if we can go in there, put a drive together, go down the field, ram it down their throat a little bit, put 7 on the board, put 3 on the board, just get up on them a little bit. Maybe do that once or twice, and then their fans start to turn on them a little bit, because they want a win just as much as anybody else. So you might start hearing some boos type of things, but we've done that to them in the past. It scored 14 quick with Saquon in that game. He took that first play. He hurdled a couple of guys, this and that. So we were up big in that game. So Iowa comes back. We have to make that the last second play to Jawan Johnson to get that win. So you don't want that happening too often. And we got to start quick. Don't let them get off to a start, and do not let this crowd begin to affect the game. Take them out ASAP. Get a quick one on the board. Shut them down pretty quick. Easiest way to do it, and it'll pay off in the end. Trust me.
If you win the toss, if you're Penn State, what are you doing Saturday, Goon?
I would always defer personally and let them make a decision because you want the second half. But if why wouldn't I just say I want my offense out there? Screw it, let's go. I would.
Yeah, I mean, I think conventional wisdom and maybe the right thinking is to defer and with this defense, get out there and try to win the field position battle early. And get your team out there and not put the offense out with the crowd noisy. But I got to tell you, if I'm and one of many reasons that I'm not the Penn State coach and never should be, but I really wonder if Franklin might not say, nope, you know what, we want the ball. We want to get some confidence with this offense. And listen, I get it. It can backfire. That's part of that's why coaches get paid the big bucks. But presumably they've had a good week of practice, a focused week of practice, and they feel like they know what they want to do. And we keep talking about Goon. I think you and I both think that this offense is the best days are ahead of it. It's really close to kind of getting some things really clicking here. And I think if you go in with a game plan that you think is going to be effective right out of the gate, I think you take the ball. And I just don't think there's a better way to take that crowd out than to march down. And again, it's a big if because you go 3 and out, you give Iowa the ball at the 30 or 40. Now all of a sudden you're up against it. But if you take the ball and you drive down and even get a field goal, but if you can drive down and score right away, you talk about taking that crowd out of it. Now you get your defense feeling good. You're out there with the lead against an offense that, again, is not overwhelming. I think I'd be pretty tempted if I was James Franklin to if Penn State wins the toss, to take the ball and try to get it going.
That goes into the deep stuff like that people don't think about. That's the stuff that the head coach has got to think about this week. Like, hey, I feel like we had a great week of practice. Your offense is clicking right now. We should ram it down their throats, man. So I do want to say how well our team is playing complementary football. Like
no
when
question.
that offense needs the defense to step up, they do. And when that defense needs an offense to step up, and the special teams, they're really, really, really hanging out and selling out for each other.
Yep.
Again, we're not talking anything new here. We both really like this team and have liked this team the whole season. They're just playing a different style of ball right now, and they're playing team football, which is great, and they're having a blast doing it. And there's, I've told everybody there's nothing funner than winning. I mean, that's easy. It's winning is the best thing for anything.
And listen, football it's always a long season, crazy injuries and things can happen. But as we sit here going into this game, is there any doubt in your mind that I was going to be the West champion? I mean, is there anybody that's even that you can even consider as a possibility other than Iowa?
Nebraska looked pretty good last week, and they're starting to turn around a little bit.
They are, but
you'll see Saturday night.
Yeah, I can't see them.
I want to see how they're going to look against Michigan at Michigan. That's a huge game.
Yeah, although I'm also still not convinced that Michigan is.
No,
and that's part of the issue as we keep talking about. And listen, there's people rightfully wondering whether Penn State and Iowa are legit. Should be ranked
the fact that we started off with Wisconsin on the road.
Yeah,
got that out of the way. Had a real good Auburn team come here, win that. We were 19 in the country. We're 4 right now.
Yeah,
nobody's made that jump. I don't think was Iowa ranked ahead of us preseason. I mean, no one's moved up 15 spots like Penn State has.
No, I think they were a couple spots. Penn State and Iowa were pretty close.
And I'm telling you, I think that they're just really selling this Iowa team as being all this, and I don't think that they've proven it. They haven't played anybody, and we have to exploit that. We shouldn't have nerves going out there. We've done this already. We did it at Wisconsin. Again, I'm bullish is what you said last week, and I can't get that word out of my head, but I'm bullish on this team. I'm bullish on this game. I really like us by 2+ touchdowns.
Well, and here's one of the things I like, and I was watching, again, I'm flipping around more with the national media this week than I normally do, and Paul Feinbaum was talking about this game a little bit, and he was talking about, how I forget basically critical this game is for Penn State's quarterback. He's like, if Sean Clifford, this is the game where he has to prove himself. And a couple of things about that. First of all, if Penn State loses this game by a field goal and Sean Clifford throws 3 interceptions, and then Sean Clifford goes on a tear and throws 4 touchdown passes with no interceptions in a 2-touchdown win at Ohio State, and Penn State goes on and wins the Big Ten championship game over Iowa. Does anybody seriously think you're going to look back and, oh, yeah, Sean Clifford did a great job at the end of the season, but nope, that Iowa game defined him because Paul Feinbaum said this game doesn't define anybody. It doesn't define James Franklin as a coach. It doesn't define – now, does it help the legacy? Absolutely, sure. Of course. But the hyperbole, and this is typical of any big game, but the idea that this game in and of itself is going to define anything for anybody, to me, is just absurd. I think it's a great, and I think this is one of the things with the mindset, right? If you're, and it's one of the things that I love about Cale Sanderson and that wrestling program is that they never talk about a pressure-filled situation. It is, man, do you believe we have the opportunity to go out here with the entire country watching and wrestle Iowa? Can you believe, right? I mean, and I think this is the mentality that this Penn State football team is taking. We've had an opportunity to be at Wisconsin in front of a great crowd there. We've had 2 great night games at Beaver Stadium. Like, these are opportunities that not many people get in their lifetime. And win or lose, again, everybody's life is going to go on the next day. I don't care how disastrous a game or how great of a game these guys have. The next week, the opportunities are still going to be there for both of these teams, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
If Iowa goes out and shellacks Penn State and then loses a couple of these games down the stretch, this is going to be one of the, bigger collapses in Iowa football history. If Penn State wins this game big and then turns around and gets blasted by Ohio State, or so that, again, it's an important game. It's a big game in the moment. This is everything. But, man, there is so much more to play for after this, and it's all about, again, trying to seize the opportunity, build upon the experience. And I think for Penn State, it really is about just, again, continuing to build upon the foundation that really was built with the end of last season, with those 4 games at the end of last year. And I think all of this is still a carryover from that and the building blocks to it. And it's why I'm with you. I think we both have a really good feeling about Penn State going into this game, because I don't think Penn State looks at this the way I think some of the national media are looking at it as, boy, Penn State, you lose this one and, there goes your credibility. I think Penn State's saying, man, we get an opportunity. Yeah, we get an opportunity to go out there and play at Iowa in front of a great crowd and prove ourselves again. This is awesome. And yeah, at the end of the day, the truth is, again, if it is a close loss, it does nothing to Penn State's overall goals for the season. That being said, again, obviously you want to win it. You want to keep the momentum going and keep building everything. And as we've talked about, I think then you go into that bye week and then the Illinois game, and you really have some weeks to just really concentrate on yourself, getting fundamentally better, and then, gear it up for what is going to be a tremendous, and I think for the fans and for the players, just a very fun stretch run, right? Yeah. Which is, again, it's what you dream of as a kid, right? And who wouldn't want that opportunity? Any kid that plays sports at any level, right? You would love to have the opportunity to go out on the stages that Penn State is this year, playing at Wisconsin, playing at Iowa, playing at Ohio State, getting, the night game opportunities against Iowa and Indiana, getting the home crowd against Michigan. I mean, these are special opportunities, man. And again, it's fun to have those opportunities. And yes, more fun, more memorable in a good way when you win them and can continue to build that momentum. But I just think I think that mindset for Penn State is where it needs to be, and it's why I have a very good feeling about Penn State going into this game on Saturday.
Look at Auburn, goes to Penn State, plays in a whiteout in that environment. It's absolutely crazy. Then goes down to LSU, and ho hum. We've seen this. We've done this before. We're not afraid. They're not staring into the lights. And I think the same thing's going to be with Penn State after the Wisconsin game.
Yeah,
we saw exactly. Wisconsin may not be as good as they were thinking, but maybe Iowa's not as good as we're thinking. So. I don't think our guys are going to be at all shell shocked or like caught up in the moment. I just think that James has these guys so dialed in. It's a business trip for them. You got to go 1-0 this week, and this is how you get the job done. You got to go out there, and we'll talk about the keys of the game: who can run and who can stop the run. That's my keys to the game right there. That's all I want to.
Yeah, and here's the other thing with Iowa is I think most, if not everybody, objectively looking at this would agree there is more talent, like more NFL-ready talent on this Penn State roster than there is Iowa. And it's not to say Iowa is devoid. There are some terrific prospects on that Iowa team. I'm not saying this is a team devoid of talent, but much like Penn State, Ohio State, right? You look at those two rosters over the last 5 years or since Jefferson Franklin's been here.
Yep.
Ohio State has more of the top tier athletes than Penn State. But I think Penn State has been able to keep it close because they've been able to play together. And I think that is how Iowa has knocked off many opponents, is I do think they all buy into that system. They all know their role, they understand it, and they trust each other. What I think Penn State has going for it this year is they have that same camaraderie. And if you have two teams that are both really tight, really playing well and unselfishly and all of that, and I think both of these programs have that going for them right now, then right talent ought to win out. more often than not. And I think that's one of the reasons I like Penn State. I think Penn State has more. I know Penn State has more big-time playmakers on this roster than Iowa does.
Kirk Ferentz is the longest tenured coach in college football right now. I mean, there's a reason why he's been there that long, and there's also another reason that he's a Western Pennsylvania guy. He runs a Pennsylvania type workman type program out there. You know, they're not. He's like almost like a mini Joe in some regards. Again, defense, special teams, don't screw up on offense. I mean, that was Joe's forte. That's Kirk Ferentz's for the last 20 years. And, you know, they don't have the bigger, stronger, craziest guys on the team. They don't have the 19 5-stars like Alabama, Ohio State. They get by playing team ball. So I have always respected and liked Iowa for that reason, because of how hard they worked and tough kids they were, and guys that I know from there being good people. So, I mean, you know, Kirk Ferentz, you know, there's a reason why he's been there that long. And, you know, there's a reason we're talking about this type of program, because that's where he's from. He Upper St. Clair High School in Pittsburgh. So it's a, you know, again, a Pennsylvania type workman type program out there. I love it. I mean, again, I've always liked Iowa. You know, I mean, I say I like Iowa, I like Wisconsin, Minnesota, Purdue. They never hurt nobody, but Ohio State, Michigan's are the ones that, you know, they're the ones who were your peers. And listen, I think we've had a good rivalry with Iowa. I think we've had the better of it, but we should have the better of it. We have the better players. Yeah. And like you're saying, the difference between Iowa and Penn State is pretty much the same distance between Penn State and Ohio State. That's a great analogy right there. Very good. It's like you know what the hell you're talking about.
Well, thanks. Every now and then I like to try to fool everybody.
You throw it out there enough, something's going to stick, right?
That's exactly right. So you think it's going to come down to the run game?
It does. We got to be able to run. Again, we were too east-west last week. We got to get in there and run the ball. And that's what they're good at stopping us. So maybe the east-west is our route this week, and use your speed and use your athletes to spread these guys out.
Yeah, I do think Penn State, what Penn State wants to do with Yurcich and with this offense is, you know, the conventional wisdom was you use your running game to set up the passing game. And I do think it's the opposite here for Penn State. They want to use that passing game to soften up, loosen up the defense. And then ideally, I think what Penn State would like to be able to do is, you know, you build that lead and then be able to pound the ball in that fourth quarter and create those openings. Now, that has not come to fruition yet this year, but I think that's what Penn State would like to get to is, listen, we have an offense that's built for quick strike, where you have a defense that's built to preserve a lead. And then you got to get that running game that you can salt the game away. You can get those first downs that puts any question out as to the outcome of a game. And that part still has not come, even though that passing game has been effective. It has not opened up the running game the way you would want. Now, I do think it helped, and I do think some of the big plays you saw against Indiana, a couple of the two big runs were as a result, in part, of Penn State being able to get that passing game going. And I do think this offensive line, again, is getting better. It might not be making taking the tremendous leaps that you'd love to see as a fan from week to week, but I do think it is making progress. It is, they're
getting more continuing. They're getting
slogging
better
their way, yes, toward.
They're not regressing. How's that sound?
A better unit, yeah, and I think they are legitimately progressing. I mean, I do think. Yes. Again, it's not leaps and bounds. It's not a dominant offensive line right now, but I do think each week they've been a little better, and you've seen some things. And listen, that they're doing a little better, and I do think that the timing is better right now. And we're talking about the running game because I do think the pass protection has been absurd. Actually,
very good.
When you look at the defensive fronts that Penn State's played and the time that Sean Clifford has had, it's really absurd. And that is one of the reasons I'm hoping Penn State does get the ball first, whether Iowa wins the toss or Penn State does, because I think Penn State can march down, and I think with the passing game can march down the field. And with the time Clifford has, I think you can set some things up for later in the game for longer, even longer passes, and because again, and that to me is one of the keys too, because Iowa has been very effective over the years at getting a good pass rush, and has been good this year about getting a good pass rush against opposing offenses.
They usually have one werewolf defensive end that they, everything's funneled to him, and they got to make plays, and they have in the past on us. We got to take that guy away.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's going to be one of the many, many keys, but I'm curious to see how Penn State handles its pass blocking, i.e., do you keep the tight end in more often than not? Do you keep the running back in, or hey, let's get as many guys out here and we're comfortable and confident with the front five. Let's get as many people out there and give Sean Clifford the opportunity to find the guys. And obviously it depends on what the defense is showing and blitzing and all of that. But I'm curious to see how Penn State tries to attack this Iowa defense early. And then, as always, the adjustments that both teams make throughout the course of the game is where the fun of games like this is always.
I look forward to the Wisconsin game more than any other game in a long time because it was the first game back.
Yep.
I'm actually really looking forward to this game Saturday. I'm watching commercials up there. I'm seeing it out of the corner of my eye, and I'm as jacked for a game that I have been in a long time for this one on Saturday. Just had that feeling it's going to be just a great game. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah,
I have that feeling that this is a special team. This is the next step in a special season, and they got to take care of business. And looking at Iowa's schedule, I mean, Penn State's got to sit there and say, like, okay, well, if we lose this, there's really nobody else who can beat Iowa. They're going to easily run the table, and that's scary to think about.
Yeah.
So there's a spot in the four right there. I know they still got to win the championship, but that doesn't go into. Does it not go into the equation anymore, or some crap like that? Whatever, how the voting parties and stuff like that. They said that the Big Ten, the title game shouldn't matter, which I don't believe. But
no,
Pooch, you're the one saying 2 SEC and 2 Big Ten, aren't you?
Well, it could very well be. I still think Cincinnati is very much in play there, depending on how their season plays out. And listen, there's so many things like we're saying. I mean, Iowa's schedule right now does not look very good. Well, if the West continues, especially the teams that they're playing, the Minnesotas and the Purdues, if those losses continue to mount. I think at the end of the year, you're going to be able to compare resumes pretty comparably between Cincinnati and Iowa. And listen, if to get ahead of ourselves now, if Penn State runs the table and beats Iowa twice, right? Like I was not getting in there. I don't think a 2-loss Ohio State team is getting in over Cincinnati, right? Like that's not happening. I don't think
Cincinnati has no. I mean, if they say the strength of schedule is so important in these selections, as they always do, but every year seems to change, doesn't it? I just don't see how Iowa or Cincinnati get in because their strength of schedule is so bad. I mean, Iowa would have beaten a top 10 team in Penn State, and then, all right, well, Cincinnati already has that and beat Notre Dame, a top 10 team at the time, and they play nobody else.
Yeah, part of it, again, is going to depend who else do you have to choose from at the end of the year, record-wise, because you're not taking a 2-loss team. I don't care how good the resume is. You're not taking a 2-loss team from the Big Ten or the SEC, even over an undefeated Cincinnati. Like, I can't envision that happening.
Or
well,
Georgia.
yeah, Alabama.
I think Florida can somehow get picked back up in there.
Oklahoma to me is still the team to watch because it feels like they are a loss waiting to happen
every year.
And I don't know if this week is. I'm just not impressed with what Texas has done, and I don't. But I'm not impressed with what Oklahoma has done. I mean, I certainly think Texas is capable of winning that game. Obviously, I'm not necessarily expecting it, but I feel like Oklahoma is going to stumble at least once, if not a couple of times, before we get to the end of the season. I think they're very fortunate that they haven't stumbled yet. And if that happens, I don't think there's any. I mean, there's not an ACC school or a Pac-12 school, right? I don't think that's getting in to the playoffs, presuming that Alabama and Georgia plays out the way we're thinking. And listen, there's no guarantee. Again, I'm presuming a Georgia win. There's not a guarantee even against Auburn this Saturday. We got to see how everything plays out here before.
There is a lot of football to be played.
Before we finalize
Somebody did
anything.
say it is October. You're not handing awards out or playoffs yet. Just relax.
Yes.
It's our society. They need answers now. Like what is the answer right now? It's going to change 19 more times.
But it's part of the fun, right?
Yeah,
is getting caught up in
we
the
get paid
moment.
to talk about it. So
absolutely,
and handsomely at that. Jeff.
Oh, big time, buku bucks.
Gracious.
Real quickly, Goon, the focus obviously rightfully on this Penn State Iowa game and the everything. To go to your point, but you don't think, or do you? Do you think Penn State has to actually win the rushing battle to come out on top on Saturday?
No, they got to be able to run the ball when they need to run the ball.
Yeah.
But if they could shut Iowa's run game down.
Yeah, that would go a long way.
That would be a fantastic thing. Trust me.
Yeah, I don't think Penn State
make them take the run away, make them a passing team, and I think we run away with it.
Yes, I would tend to agree with you there. And one of the ways you can do that, by the way, is to get a double-digit lead early.
Yes, make them pass.
Right, get a couple of quick scores. And then all of a sudden, it becomes a lot more difficult to tell yourself, "Yep, let's grind it out." And grind it out in this case means turning up yardage. Urban Meyer, not what you're thinking it means. But it becomes more difficult to get that mindset. I think if you're Iowa, if Penn State can build that double-digit lead.
How am I supposed to back that up right now?
Did you see the Jacksonville players? Have you seen the clip going around with the grind?
Did you see it, Butch? They broke the team down. 1, 2, 3, grind.
And they're all laughing, including the assistant coaches. I mean, Urban Meyer has absolutely flat out become a joke in that. I really don't know right now how they don't get rid of. And I'm not even
come to this either.
I'm not even. There was a debate the other night on whether or not this is behavior that happens all the time. Well, a couple things, and actually, Colin Cowherd, I thought had a great point on it. It's like, well, yeah, this stuff does happen in bars all of the time,
sure,
and unfortunately with married men as well, but. Urban Meyer has paid a lot of money to not put himself in that position, and he knows damn well that he's paid a lot of money to not put himself in that position.
He actually said it. He goes, "I shouldn't have been there. I should have just left."
And again, it's as a young coach, I think you could say, "Listen, boy, that was dumb, poor decision, but learn from it." This dude is too old to be using the and not that he's used the I didn't know better. I mean, he's saying he did, but he didn't. I mean, if he did, he wouldn't have been in that position.
Remember the televangelists were getting pulled out of like hotels with strippers and coke back in the 80s and 90s?
Yeah.
I've sinned. And I just feel like that because they preach against it and they go do the exact thing that they were preaching against. And it's exactly what he's been telling those guys for however long he's been practice what you preach. You got to surround yourself with good people. Don't put yourself out there, this and that. And then he goes and does that. And there's absolutely zero respect for the program from him right now over this. And that is why I believe he's going to get – I would have thought that they would have actually suspended him by now and said, you know what, we're going to rethink this and you need to step away because it's a total distraction is what it is. We started off, me and you, when we saw it, Sunday, Monday, or whatever, and it was like, and my first impression was, you know what, it's between him and his wife. It's not a society issue. It's not this and that, But then if you start thinking about it and then the way he talks and acts and stuff like that, and, his, I'm not going to say holier than thou because he's not like, he's never been like that, but he preaches a lot of that, watch what you're doing, who you're with, and
personal
all this.
responsibility.
And how do you go out and do something like that? And how do you save face with those guys you're trying to impose that onto them? to do that, and you're being caught. I just don't see it ending well for him. I really, really don't. And if you asked me Monday, I would have laughed at your face saying, absolutely no, it's a problem between him and his wife. But now it's become
the players
so much more.
and the assistant coaches are clearly now regarding him as a joke, and you can't have your leader considered a joke by the team, right? Like it just, and I don't know how I know the owner said he's got to regain. How do you go about doing that? I mean, I don't see the path, and I'm not arguing whether there should be or not or whatever. I'm telling you, when you've lost it to the degree that he appears to have lost it with what we're seeing with the videos, and again, they're breaking the huddle with down in Jacksonville with grind, and they're all laughing. I mean, that is not a locker room that I think you can win back. I mean, I just don't see the path forward to win.
There are people out there who are convinced that he's going to run with this to get booted so he can go take USC. And my answer to that is USC is not going to take a guy like that.
No,
because what they went through is Sarkisian. They've already had that black guy a little bit. They don't want somebody coming with that type of baggage, in my opinion.
I don't see, and I know, I mean, winning pedigree and winning solves everything, and all of that. And I may very well eat these words, and maybe Urban will be the USC coach or somewhere else next year. I don't see Urban. I think he does get let go at some point here, and I think it'll be sooner rather than later by Jacksonville. And I don't think we see him again. I don't think we will. I don't think he'll be a head coach. Because I mean, at any level. I mean, can you imagine a high school school board saying, "Yep, let's get Urban Meyer with that"? I mean, seriously, and I don't see any college program. I mean, the NFL would be his best chance, but he's a laughing stock. Like, there's no owner that's going to say, "Yep, let's get that guy who was laughed out of Jacksonville in as our guy."
Bringing you here for this reason. You're going to bring in law and order to our team.
By the way. It's not as though Urban Meyer's exactly going to be down and out here for the rest of his life if he's not able to coach again.
Urban Meyer. I respect
think he's pretty well set up.
He came to Joe's funeral. I will give him respect for that. Not everybody came. Not a lot of people wanted to show their face around in those surroundings, and I will always respect him for that. He stood up for his friend. I respect him for that. But there was only so many NFL jobs he could have taken. And that was one of them because they wanted law and order. The inmates are running the asylum down there, and he went in there. He went in there as the sheriff, and the sheriff done messed up big time.
Yeah, sheriff opened up the gate. Now everybody's running.
I don't think it ends well for him, and it stinks. Again, because I do have respect for Urban Meyer. I thought he was a great coach,
but I do think it is a genuinely good. I mean, unfortunate for him to whatever degree you want to have pity for him. I do think it is a wonderful cautionary tale though, for young coaches up and coming. I mean, when you talk about personal responsibility, and yes, these guys they put in tremendous hours. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of benefits and all of it. But man, you have got to keep yourself out of the news. Like that is part of why you're getting paid. The money that James Franklin is getting paid is yes, we want winning. We want your kids to be good, but we want you out of the headlines for anything other than doing a good job with your program, right? I mean, and that is part of why you're getting paid that money is to not be in positions like Urban Meyer found himself in.
And you're exactly right. It is that cautionary tale that will be shown for the next 25 years.
Yeah.
They still talk about it. They will still talk about the Urban Meyer film. They guarantee you that will come up. Every NFL, every NBA, every rookie symposium that they have, it will come up. Like when you're out and you sort of a famous guy like him and someone says, "Can I get a selfie?" You don't know what that person's going to do to that picture.
Well, and
you don't know.
And Joe Paterno, I mean, before any of this even came about, Joe Paterno would talk about it at the Jersey Shore. He would not, like, girls would come up, I mean, and innocent, just say, "Hey, we want, man, this is the famous Joe Paterno. Can we get a picture with you?" And he said, I try to be really, really careful because the last thing I need is somebody, look at this picture of Joe Paterno and these, bikini babes. And he's like, you don't need it. And he taught it, I forget if that was at one of the bowl press conferences after the season, but he talked at pretty good length about it the one time with at least the beat reporters about. And again, this is before any of the social media stuff. This is going back, I don't even know now, probably 25, 30 years ago. But he was talking about, listen, one of the things you have to be careful of is you don't want people misconstrued. And he said, I've had people come up to me on the beach, and he said, I know they're not meaning anything, but he said, somebody gets it then and blows it out, and hey, this is so and so was doing this. And, well, how are you going to prove otherwise? Got it, huh? And that's that is one of the things you've got to be really really careful.
Level of football that will come up and say, listen, this is what happened. Urban Meyer was at the top of his game. I mean, not the top of his freshman in the NFL, but he was a very, 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 very well-known coach who is probably going to lose his coaching career because he's let some people do stuff to him and videoed it. It's crazy.
Yeah. Although I did see, and I haven't looked up whether, I'm assuming it was accurate, there was a report I was watching on Urban Meyer's history, and it was an anti-Urban Meyer piece, admittedly. But they said it was either 41 or 42 players from that Florida national title team have been arrested since then. That is an astounding number of arrests, and that's the Tim Tebow team, by the way. So you have Tim Tebow as that was Aaron Hernandez, and but 41 arrests,
not arrests, just players
on one team. That is, I'm sorry, that is just
no control.
But you can't even. It's not even. It's beyond no control. It's just incomprehensible that you could even get a collection of people with that many. Getting arrested, isn't it? I don't know.
1992, we had 6 guys arrested in one year. Jones loses control of the program. He had 41.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah. That's just
they weren't like, they weren't like jaywalking tickets either. That was opening up automatics in the middle of the street.
Well, they had
threatening, maiming. Yeah. Oh man. Well, I got a 27-10 Ironhead.
Wait, what?
27-10.
Wow.
Yes, I'm telling you.
I'll take your score. I have a 24-17.
Nice.
Penn State, but we both do like the Nits, and I think we're feeling good going in. We'll talk Tuesday about whether or not our good feelings were justified. I don't have as good a feeling about the beloved Steelers against the Broncos, by the way. Let the record show. Right. Thank you, dear Red Sox, by the way, for taking care of the Yankees on Tuesday night. I made
a comment on Facebook last night. Said you turned that game on last night or 2 nights ago. Red Sox, Yankees, Cardinals, Dodgers. They're iconic uniforms. I love it.
Yep.
And I'm like, I didn't mean to start an argument on Facebook or whatever I posted, but I was like, I love going through the TV channel and like instantly seeing it's USC playing UCLA. The iconic uniforms. I love it. We have the ultimate iconic uniform. I absolutely love it. And I go back to, if Iowa wears those yellow on yellow uniforms, and I think that they are, I'll throw up. They're the worst uniforms. They're worse than the Ohio State tampons they're going to wear this year.
They are Oregon-esque in their horrific.
Try and do too much. Well, tonight, the Seattle Seahawks are wearing those neon. They're wearing the highlighter uniforms. It's the worst uniform in sports.
Yeah, it's not a good look.
Yeah, buddy. All right, have a good weekend, Ironhead.
Yep, enjoy all of the games this weekend, baseball, football, and otherwise. We will be back on Tuesday, and until then, be good and be safe.
Lion Country Kia is offering exceptional deals on your new Kia during Kia's Command the Season event.
We have a nice selection on the 2021 Kia Sportage with various options and prices as low as $26,800, saving you $3,000. Or if you demand big power and towing capacity, slip into one of the 2021 Kia Sorrentos available on our lot, starting at $32,680.
Discover why Kia drivers throughout the area come to Lion Country Kia or visit online at lioncountrykia.com.
Quaker Steak and Lube is throwing open the garage doors and setting up the umbrellas. It's patio season. Come enjoy great food, drinks, and fun in the sun. There's always something happening at Quaker Steak and Lube, but we're really amping up our event calendars for our favorite time of year. Visit thelube.com to find out what's happening at your local lube this season. Lunch, happy hour, dinner, or late night, indoors or outside, at Quaker Steak and Lube, you'll always find big flavors, friendly faces, and lots of fun.
Hi, Johnny Broom here. If you're in the market for a new Hyundai or a pre-owned car, truck, van, or SUV, nobody beats a Blaze Alexander deal. But don't take my word for it.
Hey, Goon says tell him Johnny sent you.
Hey, tell him Johnny sent ya.
Tell him Johnny sent you.
Wait, tell him Juan or tell him Johnny sent you?
Tell him Johnny sent you.
Here at Bill Pickles Tap Room, we say,
Tell him Johnny sent you.
And remember,